This is Julian. We're at the 18th of May, and I'm going to give you like my thoughts on like the crypto market and markets in general. I want to share in this video some kind of like macro kind of like analysis because I do see too many people like only focusing on like charts and like microstructure of price or just like technical analysis. And I do think it's super important to also have like to take like some kind of like space to just like see how things are moving in on like traditional markets. And so regarding Bitcoin, the idea to me is still the same. I'm not super bullish, but still below $30,000. I do think that Bitcoin starts to become relevant for kind of like a long-term bet. This is why I'm only talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum in this video, because for me these are the only two assets that have the best risk reward in the crypto space right now. If you want to minimize your risk and maximize like your potential gain. And I do not recommend you to be too focused on altcoins or like small capitalization. So the idea for Bitcoin is still the same. We had like a super strong bearish acceleration, mainly due to like the fact that traditional markets were dropping, and also the Luna kind of like collapse with USD. And here I'm on the chart on Binance, where you see we had a week on like at $25,000. So if we look at the big picture, we still hold the kind of like support everybody's watching at $30,000. But you need to be prepared in case of like we break down this support and we go way lower to $20,000. This is why if you have stable coins, or if you have a lot of stable coins, be super cautious on how you start buying Bitcoin or Ethereum, and where do you put your limit orders to make sure that you maximize your entry points, right? I do not recommend you to buy in market orders. Always limit orders. And if you want to buy, even though it's small orders, like I don't know, a few $1,000s, just split them in smaller orders and you put limit orders to make sure that you are executed at the best price. It's super important, especially when markets can be that volatile with like super kind of like big wicks. It's super important. So the idea for me is like to have some kind of like limit orders around $28,000 and $26,000 and around these two area, and then just wait to see like how price react in the coming weeks below like this kind of like area, just to see how things are moving. But I'm still ready to like face some extreme capitulation, as I call it, around $20,000. For Ethereum, it's a bit the same. As I mentioned in the previous video, for me below $1,800, it's super interesting for kind of like a long-term bet. I mean, it's super interesting like to start investing into like dollar cost averaging around these levels, because like it's kind of like quite the fair price for this kind of asset. But still, be super careful, because I will highlight why I'm not that much bullish on Bitcoin and Ethereum, even though the price structure, if we only look at charts in like daily, weekly, I'm definitely super bullish, right? But still, on the macroeconomic aspect, I'm not that much bullish. That's why I don't want to rush into these prices, and I prefer play slowly, right? So first, a reminder about USDT. Be super cautious if you only use USDT. I would recommend you to use USDC or BUSD, so Binance stablecoin, or the stablecoin from Circle, and try to avoid USDT, even though it's super hard to avoid USDT because liquidity in crypto markets are turned around USDT for sure. But still, be cautious. We had like 1 week ago, we had a depeg of like USDT around 5 cents below like it's the price it should be, and you see that in 1 year we haven't got like an event like that. So this is why be super cautious. And it seems like the process, the redemption is working well, but because of like UST, regulators are watching closely at USDT, and we don't know what can happen in the coming weeks. So this is why play safe, try to avoid USDT, only USDC and BUSD, and watch out carefully everything surrounding Bitfinex and also like USDT Tether. So to talk about macro regarding crypto, Bitcoin is super strong, right? The hash rate is still doing all-time highs on all-time highs, and we are way, like last summer we had like this kind of like China ban and China FUD, but right now, like since a few weeks, Bitcoin hash rate is super strong. This is why we have to believe on the long term on like Ethereum, Bitcoin, all these blue chips, and also other blue chip like a kind of like altcoins, because like the fundamental is super strong and people are still building in the ecosystem, no matter the price, and this is what really matters at the end. So now talking about inflows. So basically an inflow is like whales who have like Bitcoin on their ledgers or on their private key that just send Bitcoin on centralized exchanges such as like Binance, Coinbase, and so, just to either sell their Bitcoin or be ready to sell if there is like some kind of a crash. So regarding all these on-chain metrics, be super cautious, because like sometimes people can just send a Bitcoin on exchanges just to make people, oh, there is like a big inflow, I'm gonna sell. But on the other side, like they have like already stablecoin on like on exchanges, and then they just buy Bitcoin. You see what I mean? So, and even sometimes they just sell Bitcoin on spot and they buy on like futures, because I don't know, futures are cheaper, or because like they have like a negative funding rate or whatsoever. So this is why every time you see like some kind of like super short analysis on Twitter, make sure you really understand what's going on, and there is no shortcuts in the way they think or how biased they are and so on. So that's super important. So you can see that I have the data live because I'm members of like this data provider, but it's up a bit more, so it's a bit scary, to be honest. But still, if we look at specific exchanges such as like Coinbase Pro, you can see that we had like massive outflows on Ethereum, and on Bitcoin it's also the case. We have like outflows. So basically what people say is that Coinbase Pro is more like for institutions, and like Binance or whatsoever are more like for traders or like whales and so on. So we can see that institutions are still I think accumulating a lot of Bitcoin in Ethereum, and that's super good for the long term. Now the main important thing for me like regarding crypto is like to be able to balance the FUD and FOMO, right? The fear of missing out, and like and just the fear of like seeing the markets going down, and then panic sell and whatsoever. So the idea here is just to compare to what we had in the past, and you compare to every time we had like that much fear into the market, where the price was and where the price was when we had that much FOMO, on the market. So definitely when you have a fear below 10, it's definitely a better time to buy Bitcoin than to sell it. So this is why the long-term picture is super bullish on Bitcoin. Fundamentals still remain super strong. But on the short term, the narrative is not that strong regarding like, oh, it's an edge against inflation. I don't know, it's the store value whatsoever. That's not the case, right? It's super correlated to NASDAQ and to like blue chip tech companies, which is like not the kind of like correlation we are expecting, but still that's the case. And also the macroeconomic on like the traditional markets is not that good, right? Inflation is still increasing in Europe. I think now it's quite stable in America. If you look at European central banks and their policy against euro, it starts to move, but I do think they are super late because of like the crisis in Ukraine, which is a big issue. But still, dollar has been super strong the last few weeks. Currently, it seems that dollar is quite slowing down its bullish kind of like trend, or just like becoming like, why not having some kind of like a mean reversion, because we are having right now like a euro and pound bounce, which is super nice, right? The weaker the dollar, the better for crypto and like for growth or risky assets in general. Regarding the Fed now, I do think that the Fed is managing super well their timetable regarding like how they raise rates. They don't want to surprise people or whatsoever. It's super well made. So I think the main stuff to focus right now, if you want just to better understand the macroeconomy, is just focus at what the Fed is saying and just listen to what they are saying and so on. Unfortunately, we do have like a recession narrative that is getting in by big banks and so on, to spread even more fear on the markets. On my side, I do believe that what the Fed is going on, and this is why I was super bearish on crypto since beginning of this year, is that the Fed is trying to really push the recession as fast and as soon as possible, just to have the market reset, to be able to then protect the markets before the recession gets in, or before like the recession gets too bad, right? That's just my point of view of the kind of like a big picture strategy, but I can be wrong, right? It's just my opinion, not financial advice for sure. And then we still have like this issue regarding the price of like commodities, oil, the war in Ukraine, issue with Russia, the lockdown in China, and so supply chains that are a bit in trouble, which is not that good for like the economy in general. So the macroeconomy is not bullish. I'm not bullish on today. So that's why I'm super cautious with crypto markets and investment and investing in general. But I can be wrong, right? It's just my opinion and how I see the markets. And the trend is still bearish. So be careful if we have strong bounce. If we have a strong bounce on crypto, do not rush into it, right? Try to manage the risk properly, right? Don't fall in the trap. Because when you are in a macro bearish kind of like scenario, the trend is also a bit bearish, you know. Sometimes bounce are just like huge liquidity scenario for whales just to sell even more of their assets. So that's why be super cautious, stay safe. Markets are not easy these days, and just like watch the price in like 4 hour time frames, and just like if you want to buy, put some bids. Be super like cautious. Try to protect your wealth, right? And if you don't want to buy, don't buy, right? If you think, oh yeah, I totally agree with you, the macroeconomy is not that good, I would rather wait. I have some friends that are just waiting for the macroeconomy to get better to just enter the crypto market, no matter the price, right? And I do think that's also kind of like an investment thesis that we do not see much on the internet, but I do think it's super relevant, right? Because these guys are right since like I think like the all-time high, like macroeconomy is starting to get super kind of like worse, and they say, okay, now we are waiting. Of course, buying like a support at $30,000 do make sense for a long-term view on Bitcoin, because like the price on the fair value seems to be quite rational, but it can be super irrational on the bearish kind of side too, right? Not only on the bullish side. So this is why you need to be ready to every scenario, right? This is what makes a good investment strategy look like. It's like you are ready for all scenario, for extreme fear, for extreme greed, and then you will be all right, right? So that's all for this video. Hope you like it. I think it's quite another like kind of like way of seeing at the market and not only looking at charts. I hope you like it, and feel free to share it or just to drop like any comments.